I dropped Pumpkin Night. I got 41 chapters into this horror manga because it unfortunately falls into the same thing that I say about every horror manga. It starts off really scary. It starts off really like scary into the genre of horror, psychological even at some points. And then it just devolves into like this sort of like battle manga where it's like these things are no longer a threat. It's more so just like who's gonna win in the fight. So let's back up. Let's go to the beginning. The beginning is really solid actually. Coupled with the really, really good artwork in the beginning, it kind of degrades later on, I'm gonna be honest. But the early chapters are what really, really, really hooked me. So in Pumpkin Night, you have this group of friends with our main character named Kazuya. Basically, Kazuya and his friends sort of bullied this girl named Naoko. They bullied this girl named Naoko. They ended up putting a pumpkin head on her head. A pumpkin head on her head? A pumpkin on her head. And it was during like a scene from like Carrie, if you've ever watched Carrie, where they're announcing like, here's a popular prom queen, and they pour pig's blood on her. It was like this festival or like this school dance or something, and they put a pumpkin on Naoko's head. Turns out the pumpkin was filled with like acid or something like that. And Naoko, her face gets horribly scarred. There's a lot of birds outside. Forgive me if you hear that. There's a lot of birds. Either way, her face gets scarred, and she ends up dying, I believe. Maybe she commits suicide later on. Either way, she's out of the picture. Kazuya and his friends, they get over it. Then one night, one of the people in the friend group gets a message from Naoko and is like, I'm coming for you. And she's like, what's going on? And then it's this whole thing of like, there's a person with a pumpkin head going around killing Kazuya and his friend group. And it's like, is it Naoko? Is it the spirit of Naoko? Or is it, someone else who was involved? Later on, it gets revealed that it was Naoko. But this is where the manga starts to devolve. Because once they learn that it's Naoko, we start learning that Kazuya actually wasn't that mean to Naoko. Like, he didn't bully her, but he also didn't help her. But she was like, I love you, Kazuya. But now Naoko has, like, amnesia. But she kind of remembers Kazuya, so she doesn't kill him. She saves him for last. But as she's gonna, like, kill him, they end up going to, like, this construction site, right? There's this friend in the friend group named Naruto who has a dad named Tatsuyo. And the dad is basically like a caricature of Donald Trump. He's just like this, he looks like him. The translation for this is very bad. I read scans because I can't really afford all physical manga. Either way, the scans that I read, the translator was having a field day with this Donald Trump looking dad, where he was basically putting all of Donald Trump's like famous quotes into the manga. He really butchered the manga, the translator. Granted, it still got the message across that the dad is not a good person. The dad basically is like, I run this city. You can't, no one can betray me. I can cover up any death I want, blah, 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 blah. And the son's like, yeah, dad, you're awesome. Way to go, dad. And so then they end up actually killing Naoko, but then it's revealed that she's not dead. That's the thing, is that like Naoko can't die. She dies like 3 times in this manga, but she just can't die. Either way, she dies. Kazuya, it looks like he died, but he didn't actually die. Now Kazuya is Pumpkin Night, and there's this whole like pumpkin crew, and they go around and they fight evil people like Tatsuyo and gang members, and it's just like, what happened? This went from being like a scary like pumpkin wearing serial killer that's going around and killing a bunch of bullies to now one of the friends of said pumpkin killer is going around wearing a pumpkin mask and has like knives and bombs and like is fighting for justice and making sure that his friend's death is avenged, kind of thing. And it's just kind of like, what happened? This was such a good series. And then the artwork kind of takes a dive because the art really shines with the gore. The art is really good when characters are being like dismembered, electrocuted, burned alive, whatever, right? But when it comes to like battle and like the standard like people talking and standing next to each other kind of scenes, the art isn't necessarily bad. It just sort of is pretty average. It doesn't get the same level, I guess you could say. But the series is not over. Who knows? Maybe the series will get better. I don't think I'll be picking this up because I read 41 chapters, and in those 41 chapters, I already saw what I needed to see. I can leave happy. As far as reading it, where it goes in the Rambling Brother collection, honestly, I'll have to put it in the at your own risk category. It's really strong start. Who knows? It could have a really strong ending, but I just won't be there to read it. I only read 41 chapters. There's probably more chapters by the time you see this video. So who knows? Read it at your own risk. It might be good, might not be good. Hopefully it gets a different translation team because the translator who was doing it was really not translating what the characters were saying and was getting very political and was against trans people at one point. But that's a whole different story that if you read this, you'll see.